What if you could follow the story of every system in your body from the smallest cell to the full network of organs? Welcome to Rest Academy. Tonight, in 22 Calm Steps, we'll explore all human body systems from cells assembling into tissues, organs coordinating in loops to integrated networks, maintaining balance, uncovering how homeostasis, signaling, and rhythms keep you alive and responsive. Because these ideas are heavy to hold, I've prepared a free practical guide. You'll find it in the description, like a map you can return to whenever you need it. So take a slow breath. Tonight, we begin with the first truth: cells to systems, the foundation of the body's harmony. The room is quiet, and in that quiet you can imagine a city at night. Lights dim, transit slowed, maintenance crews at work. The body resembles such a city. A cell is the smallest living unit, an organ is a neighborhood, a system is a district with a shared purpose. This picture is useful because it captures two truths at once. Each part specializes, and yet nothing works alone. Begin with the cell. A cell is a membrane-bound unit of life that maintains its own internal environment. The membrane acts like a controlled gate, allowing certain ions, nutrients, and signals through while keeping others out. Inside, you find organelles. Mitochondria manage energy conversion, turning nutrient fragments into ATP, the molecule that powers work. The nucleus stores DNA, the long chemical text that encodes proteins, each protein a tool, scaffold, or signal. Ribosomes read RNA copies of that text to build proteins, while the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus fold and route them. By day, cells trade materials with their surroundings. By night, many emphasize repair, catching up on protein quality control and DNA maintenance. Cells of similar function assemble into tissues. Tissue means a cooperative group of cells plus their extracellular matrix, the scaffold they secrete and inhabit. Epithelial tissue lines surfaces and cavities, forming selective barriers and glands. Connective tissue provides structure and support from the loose matrix under your skin to the dense collagen of ligaments and the mineralized matrix of bone. Muscle tissue converts chemical energy into motion. Skeletal muscle for voluntary movement, cardiac muscle for heartbeats, and smooth muscle for the quiet motions of organs. Nervous tissue conducts information, with neurons for signaling and glia for support and modulation. Each tissue contributes distinct capabilities, and together they allow organs to perform complex jobs. An organ is a structure made of multiple tissues arranged to accomplish a defined function. Consider the stomach as a compact example within our city image. Its inner epithelium secretes acid and enzymes. Smooth muscle layers produce waves that mix and propel contents. Connective tissue shapes and supports. Embedded nerves coordinate local reflexes. Blood vessels deliver oxygen and carry away absorbed molecules. Function emerges from arrangement, layers, gradients, and timing. A system is a group of organs coordinating toward a broad goal. The cardiovascular system moves blood. The respiratory system exchanges gases. The digestive system breaks down and absorbs nutrients. The urinary system filters and balances fluids. The integumentary system, skin, hair, nails, protects and senses. The skeletal system supports and stores minerals. The muscular system moves and maintains posture. The nervous system senses, integrates, and commands. The endocrine system broadcasts hormonal messages. The immune system distinguishes self from non-self and repairs damage. The reproductive system enables continuity across generations. You may see slight variations in how textbooks group subsystems, but the principle holds. Systems are task-focused coalitions. What binds all of this into a single living person is regulation control loops that keep internal variables within workable ranges despite external change. In the city image, think of traffic lights adjusting to flow, reservoirs modulating pressure, utilities monitoring demand. In the body, sensors detect change, integrators compare reality to a set point, and effectors correct course. Blood glucose rises after a meal. Pancreatic beta cells sense the increase and release insulin. Insulin helps cells take up glucose. Levels drift back toward target. Core temperature climbs. Skin vessels widen and sweat increases. Heat dissipates. Temperature cooled back toward a narrow band. The specifics vary, but the pattern repeats. Cooperation between systems is the rule, not the exception. Oxygen delivery is a joint venture. Lungs load oxygen, heart propels blood. Hemoglobin carries cargo. Capillaries unload where demand is high. Mitochondria consume oxygen to produce ATP, and kidneys indirectly stabilize the acid-base status influenced by carbon dioxide removal via breathing. Digestion too depends on choreography among salivary glands, stomach, pancreas, liver, intestines, and the enteric nervous system, with endocrine signals modulating pace and direction. No single system owns an outcome, each contributes a piece. Scale matters. Microscopic events can drive macroscopic states. A mutation in a protein that forms an ion channel, a molecular gate, can alter electrical rhythms in heart or brain. A change in the extracellular matrix's stiffness can influence how stem cells choose a fate. Conversely, macroscopic behaviors, sleep, posture, nutrition, stress exposure, reshape cellular priorities, gene expression, and intercellular signaling. The city analogy extends. Policies at City Hall affect a single streetlight. A broken transformer on a block can black out a quarter of town. Because scales links to function, the body favors redundancies and buffers. Many enzymes exist in families. Pathways fork and rejoin. Overlapping defenses reduce the chance that one failure becomes catastrophe. Bone constantly remodels. Cells called osteoclasts resorb old mineral, while osteoblasts lay down new, so microcracks do not accumulate unchecked. The liver keeps backup metabolic routes, switching substrates when conditions change. This layered resilience is why you usually feel well even as countless small repairs occur beneath awareness. A brief clinical lens can help you reason about when to seek care. When multiple systems are strained at once, the signals often appear as whole-body patterns: unintentional weight loss, persistent fevers or chills, night sweats, profound fatigue, new confusion, or shortness of breath at rest. These are non-specific. Many causes exist, but they matter because they can reflect a systems-level disruption rather than a local irritation. If such patterns appear, especially if they progress or are accompanied by chest pain, severe headache, or fainting, professional evaluation is important to identify and address the underlying process. As you listen, you can also notice how night itself reshapes priorities. The nervous system shifts toward parasympathetic tone, the rest and digest pattern. Endocrine timing adjusts. Melatonin rises with darkness. Growth hormone pulses in early sleep. Cortisol ebbs before dawn. The immune system redistributes cells. Tissues emphasize repair. The heart and lungs adopt quieter rhythms. Kidneys concentrate urine a bit more to spare sleep. The city is not off. It is just in maintenance mode, clearing queues, reconciling ledgers, patching streets. A short reflection, held lightly. You do not supervise any of this, yet it unfolds with reliable grace. Understanding the layers, cells, tissues, organs, systems can ease worry by replacing vagueness with structure. Clarity is calming when it arrives gently. The image of the city at night lingers. Streetlights steady while crews map their next tasks. If internal stability rests on comparisons to set points, how are those targets chosen and altered across the day and the seasons? What quiet thermostats guide the whole? You keep steady because countless quiet thermostats compare what is to what should be, then nudge the gap closed. That steadying process is called homeostasis, regulation that holds internal variables within workable bounds, despite change outside. A set point is the target a controller aims for. A range is the safe corridor around it. Thinking in ranges matters because living systems flex. Healthy physiology prefers bands, not single rigid values. Begin with the pattern shared across controls. Every loop has sensors that detect a variable, integrators that compare it against a target, and effectors that push the variable back toward the target. Most loops use negative feedback, meaning a deviation triggers a response that opposes the deviation. Your skin cools, sensors in skin and core report the drop. Integrators in the hypothalamus increase signals that constrict skin vessels and prompt shivering. Heat production rises, core temperature returns toward its band. The loop is continuous, not on-off. Strength scales with error size. Some loops display features engineers would recognize: proportional responses, stronger push for larger error, integral actions, slow correction of lingering bias, and derivative damping, resistance to abrupt swings. Biology does not label these with equations, yet tissues behave like such controllers because cascades, thresholds, and time constants together create smoothing and stability. Sensors are distributed. Baroreceptors in neck and chest arteries detect vessel stretch as a readout of blood pressure. Chemoreceptors in carotid bodies and brainstem sense oxygen, carbon dioxide, and acidity. Osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus sense dissolved particle concentration as a proxy for hydration. Glucose sensing cells in the pancreas track blood sugar. Thermal sensors in skin and deep brain monitor temperature. Their signals converge on hubs, the brainstem, hypothalamus, spinal cord, and endocrine glands that coordinate outputs. Effectors are diverse. The autonomic nervous system adjusts heart rate, vessel tone, gut motility, pupil size, and bronchial diameter. Endocrine glands release hormones that alter metabolism, salt water handling, and tissue growth. Local tissues deploy paracrine signals and intrinsic reflexes. For example, arterioles widen when nearby oxygen dips, improving local flow without waiting for distant commands. Behavior participates too: thirst, seeking shade or warmth, eating, resting. In living control, choices are part of regulation. Set points are not fixed knobs, they are negotiable targets tuned by context. Fever illustrates this. Immune signals like prostaglandins raise the hypothalamic temperature set point during infection. You feel chills because the body now treats your previous temperature as too low and activates heat-raising responses. When the set point later drops, sweating helps you settle back down. Acclimatization is another example. At high altitude, ventilation set points shift, encouraging deeper, faster breaths to compensate for thinner air. In pregnancy, cardiovascular and renal set points reset to serve both parent and fetus. During sustained endurance training, resting heart rate trends lower as stroke volume rises. The pressure targets remain safeguarded, but the system achieves them with different emphases. Because life changes hourly and seasonally, regulation layers multiple timelines. Ultradian pulses, short cycles within a day, govern secretions like insulin or growth hormone. Circadian rhythms, about 24-hour cycles, adjust set points across the day-night divide. Core temperature runs a gentle curve with a pre-dawn nadir. Cortisol rises before waking to mobilize energy. Melatonin climbs after dusk to cue sleepiness. Infradian rhythms, longer than a day, such as menstrual cycles, shape temperature, fluid balance, and energy use across weeks. Seasonal light length can subtly alter sleep timing and mood. Against these rhythms, the body maintains homeostasis by context, a principle often called allostasis, achieving stability through change by anticipating demand and altering targets in advance. Range beats one number because variability can be healthy signal, not failure. Blood pressure is not a single point. It rises with standing and falls during sleep, brief surges during exercise, feed muscles with more flow. Carbon dioxide fluctuates breath to breath. Kidneys and buffers smooth the long view. Glucose rises after meals and settles between them. The issue is not fluctuation itself, but excursions that are too high, too low, or too prolonged, and the system's ability to return to baseline. Within range movement is resilience. Redundancy prevents single-point failure. Temperature regulation uses behavioral choices, vascular adjustments, sweat, shivering, brown fat thermogenesis in some individuals, and endocrine tuning. The loss of one pathway can be partially offset by others. Likewise, pH control relies on rapid breathing changes to alter carbon dioxide, chemical buffers in blood to bind acids, and slower renal adjustments to excrete or reclaim acid and base. Fast, medium, and slow lanes working together. Sometimes loops go positive, amplifying change rather than resisting it, but only for special tasks that must finish once started. Blood clotting accelerates until a vessel is sealed. Uterine contractions intensify during childbirth until delivery. These amplifiers are fenced by inhibitors that halt the cascade once the goal is met, preventing runaways. Buffers and compartments add nuance. Most body water lives inside cells. A smaller portion stays outside cells in interstitial fluid and blood plasma. Sodium dominates outside, potassium inside. These separations let nerves fire, muscles contract, and transporters move solutes. When you lose fluid through sweat, sensors detect the modest rise in plasma concentration. Thirst encourages drinking. Antidiuretic hormone prompts kidneys to conserve water. Aldosterone adjusts salt handling. Tissues share water to protect critical volumes. The compartments talk until balance returns. Steady state is not the same as equilibrium. Equilibrium would mean no gradients, no flow, and no work conditions incompatible with life. Steady state means constant conditions maintained by continual energy use. Pumps push ions, enzymes recycle intermediates, and mitochondria produce ATP. The city hums even while lights seem steady. A brief clinical lens to guide caution. When core regulatory variables drift outside safe corridors and stay there, the pattern matters more than any single reading. Examples include persistent confusion or extreme drowsiness, possible disturbances in oxygen, glucose, temperature, or toxins, severe shortness of breath at rest, gas exchange or circulation compromise, high fever with stiff neck or severe headache, or fainting with chest discomfort. These are system-level alarms that merit prompt professional care to identify underlying causes. A short reflection, gently held, recognizing your body as a network of adjustable targets, can soften worry about normal variation. You are not a number, you are a set of coordinated ranges that flex with context. If controllers compare, decide, and act, which network carries the messages quickly enough to steer seconds to seconds changes? What wiring maps sense to response with the speed your life requires? Picture a high-speed railway laid through every region of your body, long tracks for distance, dense switch yards for decision, and dispatch centers that coordinate timing. The nervous system is that railway. It carries information quickly enough to align perception with action, and it maintains detailed maps so the right cargo reaches the right platform at the right moment. A neuron is a specialized cell that conducts information. Its cell body sustains life processes. Its dendrites receive input, its axon sends output. Along the axon, voltage-gated ion channels open and close in sequence, creating an action potential, an electrical wave that regenerates as it travels. That wave is all or none. Once a threshold is crossed, it proceeds with a consistent profile, ensuring faithful transmission along the track. Speed matters. Myelin, a fatty insulation wrapped by oligodendrocytes in the central nervous system and Schwann cells in the peripheral nervous system, increases conduction velocity by forcing the electrical wave to jump between nodes of Ranvier, gaps where the signal is boosted. Large, heavily myelinated axons conduct fastest, ideal for pathways that demand timing precision, such as those guiding muscle stretch reflexes or rapid touch. At a synapse, the junction between cells, the electrical signal triggers chemical messengers. Tiny vesicles release neurotransmitters into a narrow synaptic cleft. Receptors on the next cell translate chemistry back into an electrical change. Glutamate generally excites postsynaptic neurons, increasing the chance of firing. Gamma-aminobutyric acid GA usually inhibits, providing braking. Acetylcholine activates skeletal muscle and some attention circuits. Dopamine modulates motivation and movement. Serotonin influences mood and sensory filtering. Norepinephrine adjusts alertness. The mix is the timetable. Receptors are the switches. The central nervous system, CNS, brain and spinal cord, houses dense switch yards where patterns are integrated. Gray matter consists largely of neuron cell bodies and synapses. White matter is bundled axons, the long tracks linking hubs. The peripheral nervous system, PNS, gathers sensory input from skin, muscle, and organs and delivers motor output to muscle and glands. Together they create bidirectional flow. Incoming signals inform, outgoing commands shape behavior and internal state. Sensation begins with transduction, the conversion of a physical stimulus into a neural signal. In skin, mechanoreceptors deform with touch, opening ion channels. In the eye, photons change the shape of retinal molecules, altering ion flow in photoreceptors. In the ear, hair cells bend with sound vibration. Each receptor has a receptive field, a patch of world it samples and adapts at characteristic speeds. So some signal change onset, motion, while others signal steady state, pressure, position. These features construct the raw data for perception. Maps preserve order. Somatopia arranges body surface along the cortex, so neighboring skin points project to neighboring neural tissue. The hand and lips occupy outsized regions because their receptors are dense. Retinotopy preserves the layout of the visual field from retina to visual cortex. Tonotopy lines up sound frequencies from cochlea to auditory cortex. These maps are not static prints, use reshapes them. Repeated practice enlarges representation for skilled fingers. Injury shrinks unused territory as neighbors encroach. Plasticity, experience-driven change in connections, relies on synaptic strengthening and weakening, often summarized as cells that fire together, wire together. Movement emerges from layered loops, primary motor cortex issues, commands that descend through the spinal cord along corticospinal tracts to motor neurons. A motor unit is a motor neuron, and the muscle fibers it innervates. Small units permit precise control in fingers, large units deliver power in the thigh. The cerebellum compares intended movement with sensory feedback and reduces error trial by trial, crucial for coordination and timing. The basal ganglia adjust movement initiation and vigor. They influence whether a plan proceeds, pauses, or repeats. Parallel routes ensure resilience. If one track slows, others help trains arrive. Reflexes are local circuits that bypass higher stations for speed. Tap the patellar tendon and stretch receptors in the quadriceps fire. The spinal cord couples that input directly to motor neurons that contract the quadriceps while inhibiting its antagonist. The result is a quick knee extension without consulting the cortex. Reflex arcs continuously stabilize posture and protect tissues, freeing attention for more complex tasks. Support cells shape the terrain. Astrocytes maintain extracellular chemistry, recycle neurotransmitters, and support the blood-brain barrier, a selective interface formed by tight junctions and vessel walls that protects neural tissue from circulating toxins while allowing essential nutrients to pass. Microglia patrol as immune sentinels within the CNS, clearing debris and sculpting synapses during development and learning. These non-neuronal players are the maintenance crews keeping tracks clean and signals crisp. Timing sets overall tone. Networks in the brainstem regulate basic rhythms, breathing, heart rate, sleep-wake transitions, while the thalamus gates sensory flow to cortex. The hypothalamus, a small but pivotal region, integrates signals about temperature, energy status, and light. It links fast neural control to slower hormonal control by communicating with the pituitary gland. Here the railway meets a second transport system, blood-borne hormones that change the baseline of the network, a handoff that becomes important as night deepens. Safety relies on distributed control with priority rules. If blood pressure drops suddenly, baroreceptors decrease their firing, brainstem centers respond by raising heart rate and constricting vessels, an automatic correction to protect brain perfusion. If carbon dioxide rises, chemoreceptors increase breathing drive. These are life-preserving defaults. The most vital routes get cleared first. A brief clinical vignette clarifies urgency. A person notices sudden facial drooping on one side, weakness in an arm, and difficulty speaking. The symptoms begin abruptly and do not improve after minutes. Such a pattern suggests an interruption of blood flow to brain tissue. Because neurons are highly sensitive to oxygen and glucose loss, timely evaluation is critical to limit injury. Immediate professional care is warranted when new focal neurological deficits, severe worst-ever headache, seizures, or confusion with fever appear. Learning changes the map and the timetable. Repeated pairing of inputs can strengthen synapses, long-term potentiation, making a pathway more responsive to the same cue. Sleep supports this process by consolidating patterns and pruning noisy links. With practice, a once effortful action recruits fewer neurons and runs on more direct tracks, freeing capacity for new tasks. The network economizes without losing flexibility. A short thought to hold lightly: the system that lets you feel a breeze, swallow, and close your eyes in time with a yawn is the same system that can quiet itself when daylight fades. Knowing the routes does not require steering the trains. Understanding can simply invite ease. Beneath the railway's speed lies a subtler question about tone. Signals can prepare you for action, pupils widening, heart quickening, or guide you toward rest, gut motility returning, vessels relaxing. What shifts the switches between readiness and restoration, and how does that shift ripple through organs as night settles in? You can feel the difference between a quiet evening and a sudden startle. Pupils narrow or widen, stomach settles or tightens, heart idles or quickens. Those shifts are governed by the autonomic nervous system, the branch that regulates organs without your conscious command. It works continuously, trading priority between two coordinated divisions that share one purpose: stability with readiness. The autonomic nervous system, ANS, is the part of the nervous system that controls involuntary functions such as heart rate, blood vessel tone, airway caliber, digestion, gland secretion, bladder function, and pupil size. It has two main divisions. The sympathetic division prepares the body for challenge by reallocating blood, energy, and attention. The parasympathetic division promotes recovery, digestion, and repair. A third component, the enteric network embedded in the gut wall, manages local motility and secretion but remains in dialogue with the other two. Think of the system as a vehicle with two pedals, accelerator and brake, managed by an onboard computer that anticipates the road ahead. Architecture explains the speed and reach of these pedals. In both divisions, a two-neuron chain links the central command to target organs. The preganglionic neuron has its cell body in the brainstem or spinal cord and projects to a ganglion, a cluster of neuronal cell bodies outside the central nervous system. The postganglionic neuron then travels from the ganglion to the target tissue. Sympathetic preganglionic neurons arise mainly from the thoracic and upper lumbar spinal cord and synapse and paravertebral chain ganglia alongside the spine or in collateral ganglia in the abdomen. This layout enables coordinated, body-wide responses. Parasympathetic preganglionic neurons originate in the brainstem, notably within nuclei of the vagus nerve and sacral spinal cord, synapsing in small terminal ganglia located on or near the organs themselves. This arrangement allows fine organ-specific control. Neurochemistry supplies the language. Most preganglionic neurons in both divisions release acetylcholine onto nicotinic receptors in ganglia, an efficient handoff. Postganglionic parasympathetic neurons also release acetylcholine, now acting on muscarinic receptors that tune glands, smooth muscle, and the heart toward rest and digest patterns. Postganglionic sympathetic neurons predominantly release norepinephrine, which binds adrenergic receptors on targets. Receptor subtype distribution shapes outcome. BAP1 receptors in the heart increase rate and contractility. BA2 receptors relax bronchial smooth muscle. Alpha-1 receptors constrict many arterioles, raising pressure and redirecting flow from skin and gut toward muscle. An important exception highlights nuance. Sympathetic fibers to most sweat glands are cholinergic, using acetylcholine to drive sweating for heat loss. A special sympathetic pathway turns a neural command into a brief endocrine surge. The adrenal medulla is a modified ganglion. Its chromaffin cells, stimulated by preganglionic sympathetic fibers, release epinephrine and some norepinephrine into the bloodstream. This amplifies and prolongs the accelerator signal, reaching tissues less densely innervated and aligning the whole organism for effort. When the challenge passes, parasympathetic tone reasserts and hormonal levels fall, returning the baseline. Organs display the pedals differently because their receptors differ. In the heart, sympathetic drive quickens the sinoatrial node and strengthens contraction. Parasympathetic input via the vagus nerve slows the node and reduces conduction through the atrioventricular node, conserving energy. In blood vessels, many beds constrict under sympathetic alpha-1 influence, while vessels in skeletal muscle can dilate via BAT signaling, especially when epinephrine rises during exertion. In the lungs, parasympathetic activity mildly narrows airways and increases mucus for protection. Sympathetic BAT signaling relaxes bronchioles to reduce resistance. In the gut, parasympathetic input increases motility and secretion, supporting digestion. Sympathetic input quiets motility and tightens sphincters to defer digestive work during exertion. In the eye, sympathetic stimulation dilates the pupil for light gathering. Parasympathetic stimulation constricts it for near focus and protection. Reflexes keep moment-to-moment stability. The Barrow reflex, a pressure-sensing loop, uses stretch receptors in the carotid sinus and aortic arch to gauge arterial pressure. When you stand, gravity pulls blood downward. Less stretch signals a brief drop at the receptors. Brainstem centers respond by increasing sympathetic outflow and reducing parasympathetic input, raising heart rate and constricting vessels to preserve brain perfusion. Within seconds, pressure recovers. Chemoreflexes monitor oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH, modulating breathing and sympathetic tone to match metabolic demand. Visceral reflexes within the gut, bladder, and airways coordinate local activity with minimal delay. Tone is not binary. At any moment, both divisions are active to some degree. The ratio shifts with context. During non-rapid eye movement sleep, parasympathetic influence dominates, lowering heart rate and blood pressure and encouraging digestive and repair processes. During rapid eye movement sleep, brief sympathetic bursts punctuate a parasympathetic background, producing variability in heart rate and breathing. Waking daylight, movement and cognitive load tilt the balance towards sympathetic readiness without necessarily reaching alarm. This graded context-sensitive modulation is why you can transition from reading to walking to climbing stairs without lurches. Signals from higher centers shape the petals in anticipation. The hypothalamus integrates temperature, energy status, hydration, and light information, adjusting autonomic outputs, and through the pituitary, coordinating endocrine partners. The insula and anterior cingulate cortex link emotions and interoception to autonomic patterns, why a sudden worry can quicken your pulse. Over longer horizons, circadian clocks shift set points. Melatonin rises after dusk and favors parasympathetic dominance. Cortisol rises toward dawn, gently promoting sympathetic readiness for waking. Markers of balance can be measured. Heart rate variability (HRV) describes the beat-to-beat variability in intervals between heartbeats. Higher variability at rest generally reflects robust parasympathetic influence and flexible control, while persistently low variability can indicate strain or reduced adaptability. HRV is not a score to chase, but a window into how well the petals respond to road changes. Autonomic patterns crosstalk with immunity and metabolism. Sympathetic signals alter white blood cell trafficking and temporarily dampen some inflammatory pathways. During acute challenge, parasympathetic vagal signaling participates in anti-inflammatory reflexes through cholinergic pathways. Adipose tissue, liver, and pancreas receive autonomic inputs that influence glucose output, insulin secretion, and fat mobilization. The accelerator helps mobilize resources, the brake helps redistribute and rebuild. A brief clinical perspective offers guardrails. If standing reliably brings marked lightheadedness or fainting, if palpitations, chest discomfort, or breathlessness occur at rest, if pupils become unequal with new severe headache, or if profuse sweating and tremor appear with confusion, those patterns can signal system strain requiring prompt professional evaluation. While occasional startle or positional dizziness is common, persistent, severe, or worsening symptoms deserve timely care. Hold one thought softly. Your body's baseline is not a single setting, but a live negotiation that prioritizes safety, fuel, and repair. You sense its outcome as calmness after a long exhale, a settled stomach before sleep, a steadier pulse in the dark. The petals can only do so much alone. For lasting shifts in baseline growth, recovery, timing across hours, the body recruits slower messengers carried by blood. What agents whisper to distant tissues to reshape the road itself, and how do those whispers guide the night's work ahead? In the quiet dark, a message leaves one region and reaches another without wires or ducts, yet the receiver reacts as if spoken to directly. That is endocrine signaling. Glands release hormones, chemical messengers into blood, and distant cells, equipped with the right receptors, change their behavior in response. A hormone is any molecule secreted into the bloodstream that regulates physiology at another site. Endocrine glands are the specialized tissues that produce these hormones. You also meet two neighboring modes. Paracrine signals act locally on nearby cells, and autocrine signals act back on the cell that released them. Endocrine signals are the long-distance mail. Paracrine and autocrine are the neighborhood notes. Keep the mail image. Secretion is the post office, blood is the courier, receptors are mail slots that admit only matching envelopes. Intracellular pathways are the readers that translate a letter into action. With that, three broad hormone classes fit neatly. Peptide and protein hormones such as insulin are short to long chains of amino acids. They cannot pass through the fatty cell membrane and bind surface receptors, often G-protein coupled receptors, to trigger second messengers like cyclic AMP or calcium. Steroid hormones like cortisol, aldosterone, and estradiol are lipid-soluble molecules derived from cholesterol. They pass through membranes to bind intracellular receptors that act as transcription factors, changing gene expression over hours. Amine hormones such as thyroid hormones and catecholamines derive from single amino acids but split their behavior. Thyroid hormones behave like steroids at nuclear receptors, while catecholamines act at surface adrenergic receptors. Receptors determine meaning. The same hormone can produce different outcomes in different tissues because receptor subtypes couple to different intracellular machinery. Epinephrine can constrict skin arterioles through alpha-1 receptors, yet dilate skeletal muscle arterioles through BT receptors. Context is in the receptor. Amplification gives leverage. One hormone-bound receptor can activate many second messengers, each turning on enzymes that multiply the signal. Tiny concentrations can produce large effects. Timing matters. Many hormones are released in pulses, ultraradiant bursts, rather than smooth drips. Pulsatility keeps receptors sensitive. Constant exposure can desensitize them. Clearance also shapes time courses. Peptide hormones are often cleared quickly by kidneys and enzymes. Steroid hormones circulate longer, aided by binding proteins that act as reservoirs. You rarely need numbers, you only need the idea that half-life and binding tune how long a letter stays readable. Coordination is organized around axes, hierarchies that link brain to gland to target. The hypothalamus, a small integration center in the brain, samples internal variables, temperature, osmolarity, energy status, and external cues, light, and secretes releasing hormones into a local portal system that reaches the pituitary gland. The anterior pituitary responds with tropic hormones that travel through the systemic circulation to peripheral glands. One axis regulates stress and daily energy mobilization, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis. Corticotropin-releasing hormone, CRH from the hypothalamus, stimulates adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH release from the anterior pituitary. ACTH prompts the adrenal cortex to produce cortisol. Cortisol helps maintain blood pressure and glucose availability, tempers excessive inflammation, and follows a circadian pattern, lowest near midnight, rising toward dawn to prepare for waking. Negative feedback from cortisol to pituitary and hypothalamus keeps the loop stable. Another axis regulates metabolic pace, the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid HPT axis. Thyrotropin-releasing hormone, TRH, stimulates thyroid-stimulating hormone, TSH, which drives the thyroid gland to secrete thyroxine, T4, and triiodothyronine, T3. T3 is the more active form. Many tissues convert T4 to T3 locally. Thyroid hormones increase basal metabolic processes and influence heat production, heart responsiveness, and neural development. Feedback from T3-T4 restrains TRH and TSH, stabilizing output. A third axis coordinates reproduction, the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal HPG axis. Gonadotropin-releasing hormone, gene RH pulses stimulate luteinizing hormone LH and follicle-stimulating hormone FSH from the anterior pituitary. In ovaries and testes, LH and FSH regulate steroid hormone production, estrogens, progesterone, testosterone, and gamete maturation. Pulse frequency and amplitude carry meaning. Different patterns favor different downstream responses. Reproductive hormones also shape bone remodeling, muscle protein turnover, and mood, integrating fertility with broader physiology. Posterior pituitary hormones are made in the hypothalamus and delivered down axons for release. Antidiuretic hormone, ADH, also called vasopressin, increases water reabsorption in kidney collecting ducts, concentrating urine and protecting plasma osmolality. Oxytocin promotes uterine contraction during childbirth, milk ejection during nursing, and social bonding behaviors. It also exemplifies a positive feedback loop during labor. Stretch begets more oxytocin, which begets more stretch until delivery completes the loop. The pancreas plays a dual role. Its endocrine islets release insulin from beta cells and glucagon from alpha cells to regulate blood glucose. After a meal, insulin promotes glucose uptake and storage. During fasting, glucagon encourages the liver to release glucose from stores and to produce new glucose from precursors. The renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system (RAS) integrates kidney, liver, lung, and adrenal cortex to stabilize pressure and volume. When kidney sensors perceive low perfusion or low sodium delivery, renin release initiates a cascade producing angiotensin II, which constricts arterioles and stimulates aldosterone secretion. Aldosterone increases sodium reabsorption in the kidney, drawing water with it. ADH often partners by conserving water directly. Together they keep circulatory variables within workable corridors. Adipose tissue is not just storage, it is an endocrine organ. Leptin signals energy sufficiency to the hypothalamus, modulating appetite and reproductive axes. Adiponectin influences insulin sensitivity and lipid handling. The gut also speaks. Ghrelin rises before meals to promote hunger. Peptide YY and GLP-1 rise after to promote satiety and adjust insulin secretion. Bone contributes osteocalcin. Muscle releases myokines during activity. Endocrinology is a chorus, not a solo. Crosstalk with immunity is constant. Cytokines released during infection alter hypothalamic set points, producing fever and fatigue while shifting endocrine priorities toward defense and away from growth and reproduction. Conversely, cortisol modulates immune responses to limit collateral damage. These negotiations are why illness feels like energy reallocation. A brief clinical lens to orient caution rather than self-diagnose. Patterns such as unintentional weight loss or gain with heat or cold intolerance, persistent palpitations, tremor, or profound fatigue, increased thirst with frequent urination and blurry vision, or episodes of severe dizziness with skin darkening and salt craving can indicate endocrine system strain. Because symptoms overlap many conditions, new persistent or severe patterns warrant professional evaluation to identify the underlying cause. Hold a small reflection. Chemistry quietly steers priorities. What to build, what to burn, what to save, so you can step back from constant control. Knowledge can replace worry with informed patience. Night foregrounds timing. Some letters go out more after dusk, others before dawn. The body reads them as cues to shift from expenditure toward repair. What clock sets those mail times? How does light reset it, and which hormones most directly usher you towards sleep's first arc? Inside every cell lies a clock, not a ticking device, but a transcription-translation feedback loop that rises and falls in roughly 24-hour cycles. These molecular rhythms are synchronized by a central clock in the brain, which itself aligns with external light. This internal timekeeping system is the circadian rhythm, and it orchestrates daily fluctuations in hormones, body temperature, alertness, and sleep propensity. It does not force sleep, it prepares the ground. At the center of the system lies the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, a paired cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus, just above the optic chiasm where the optic nerves partially cross. The SCN receives direct input from specialized retinal ganglion cells that contain melopsin, a photopigment especially sensitive to blue light around 460 to 480 nanometers. This connection makes the SCN a master pacemaker that aligns biology with the solar cycle. The SCN synchronizes peripheral clocks found in nearly every tissue by controlling behavioral rhythms, feeding, activity, rest, and by influencing hormone release through hypothalamic outputs. These outputs affect the pineal gland, which secretes melatonin, the hormone most associated with the onset of sleepiness. Melatonin secretion begins after dusk and rises through the night. Darkness disinhibits the pineal gland via the SCN and its downstream sympathetic relay. Melatonin does not force unconsciousness. Rather, it lowers core body temperature slightly, facilitates parasympathetic tone, and nudges the sleep-wake cycle earlier or later, depending on timing. It acts on MT1 and MT2 receptors in the SCN and other tissues, reinforcing circadian alignment. In the morning, light suppresses melatonin synthesis rapidly. This light-dark modulation forms a reliable environmental anchor. Melatonin's timing influences the phase of the circadian rhythm. Administered earlier in the day, it can advance the phase, useful for jet lag or certain delayed sleep phase syndromes. Administered late, it can delay the phase. This is not a treatment script, it's a demonstration that the circadian system is plastic and can be gently steered. Cortisol, by contrast, follows a near opposite pattern. It is lowest late in the evening, rises before waking, peaks shortly after, and declines through the day. This rhythm prepares the body for activity, raising blood pressure modestly, sensitizing vessels to catecholamines, mobilizing glucose, and enhancing alertness. It is part of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and its rhythm is not solely stress-driven. Under basal conditions, it's rhythmic by design. If cortisol fails to rise in the morning or declines too slowly, fatigue and metabolic drag may follow. These rhythms integrate. Core body temperature drops at night, facilitating sleep onset and maintenance. Growth hormone pulses occur in early slow-wave sleep, promoting tissue repair and protein synthesis. Prolactin, involved in immune modulation, also rises during sleep. Ghrelin declines and leptin rises overnight, helping to suppress appetite. These hormonal arcs are not static, they depend on sleep integrity. Fragmented sleep can blunt their amplitude even if total duration seems adequate. Clock genes such as clock, BMAL1, PR, and CRY form molecular loops that regulate their own expression in cycles. The products of clock and BMAL1 drive transcription of PR and CRY. As PR and CRY accumulate, they inhibit clock BMAL1, turning off their own production. Degradation resets the loop. This transcriptional rhythm drives thousands of clock-controlled genes, which affect glucose metabolism, lipid handling, detoxification enzymes, and DNA repair. Local clocks respond to feeding cues, temperature, and hormonal signals, adjusting phase slightly to maintain internal coherence. Misalignment between the central clock and peripheral clocks can degrade efficiency, a process observed in shift work, jet lag, and certain metabolic conditions. The timing of food intake affects the phase of liver and gut clocks, influencing digestion, insulin sensitivity, and bile acid synthesis. Late-night eating can desynchronize these peripheral rhythms from the SCN, subtly impairing metabolic regulation. Regularity in sleep and meals supports alignment. Sleep-wake timing is jointly shaped by the circadian system and the sleep homeostat. The homeostat tracks time awake. The longer you stay up, the greater your sleep pressure, driven in part by the accumulation of adenosine. Caffeine temporarily blocks adenosine receptors, reducing perceived pressure, but the buildup continues. As sleep pressure rises and the circadian rhythm lowers arousal, sleep becomes likely and then inevitable. Light is the primary entrainer or Zeitgeber of the circadian clock. Bright morning light advances the clock, shifting rhythms earlier. Evening light delays it. Blue-rich screens late at night can suppress melatonin and delay sleep onset. Conversely, a morning walk in natural light helps anchor the rhythm. The SCN remains light-sensitive even in people with low or absent conscious vision, provided melanopsin-containing retinal cells are intact. Non-photic cues also matter. Physical activity, social interaction, and meal timing serve as secondary Zeitgebers, reinforcing the rhythm. Regular patterns across the day build signal strength and reduce internal conflict between rhythms. A brief clinical perspective helps orient expectations. Persistent sleep phase delay, trouble falling asleep before early morning or advance early sleep onset and waking, can stem from altered circadian phase, especially in adolescents or older adults. Recurrent poor sleep with daytime sleepiness may reflect circadian misalignment or insufficient sleep opportunity. Sleep disturbances in depression, dementia, or shift workers often include circadian components. New severe or function-impairing patterns deserve professional evaluation. Observing consistent patterns, noticing when sleepiness occurs, how it aligns with light exposure and activity, can offer clues. Melatonin itself is not sedating. It prepares the system. Darkness, coolness, safety, and internal quiet complete the invitation. Its role is less to push sleep than to open the door. A short reflection. Timing is a form of wisdom. Your biology does not just operate, it anticipates. It prepares you for day and night, with signals shaped by millions of years under the sun. The shift toward rest is underway, but what carries oxygen to tissues, supports repair, and circulates nutrients with every beat as you sleep? What is the river that flows beneath all these rhythms, touching every system in turn? A steady sound within you has marked the rhythm of your life since before birth. It pulses quietly now, unbidden, unbroken, each beat moving life forward. This is your cardiovascular system, a closed loop of vessels and a muscular pump that delivers oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and waste with continuous precision. It flows not randomly, but purposefully, guided by pressure, resistance, and need. At its core lies the heart, a four-chambered organ slightly left of center in the chest. It is about the size of a fist and encased in the pericardium, a protective sac that provides frictionless motion with each beat. The heart is divided into two sides. The right side receives deoxygenated blood from the body and sends it to the lungs. The left side receives oxygenated blood from the lungs and pumps it to the rest of the body. The journey begins with venous return. Blood low in oxygen and rich in carbon dioxide returns to the right atrium via two large veins, the superior and inferior vena cava. From there, blood moves into the right ventricle, which contracts and sends it through the pulmonary arteries to the lungs. In the lungs, gas exchange occurs across alveolar membranes, carbon dioxide diffuses out, oxygen diffuses in. The refreshed blood then travels via pulmonary veins to the left atrium, passes into the left ventricle, and is ejected into the aorta, the body's largest artery. From there, it flows through an intricate tree of arteries, arterioles, and capillaries, reaching every tissue. Capillaries are where delivery happens. These microscopic vessels, often just wide enough for a single red blood cell to squeeze through, bring blood into close contact with tissue fluid. Oxygen and nutrients diffuse outward, carbon dioxide and waste diffuse inward. The balance is shaped by concentration gradients, hydrostatic pressure which pushes fluid out, and oncotic pressure which draws fluid in. After exchange, blood begins its return journey via venules and veins, assisted by skeletal muscle contractions and valves that prevent backflow, especially important in the legs where gravity resists upward movement. The heart's rhythm is self-initiating. Specialized pacemaker cells in the sinoatrial SA node, located in the upper right atrium, generate electrical impulses that spread across the atria, prompting contraction. The signal then passes through the atrioventricular AV node, delays slightly to allow filling, then travels down the bundle of His and Purkinje fibers to the ventricles, causing them to contract from bottom upward, efficiently ejecting blood. This electrical pattern repeats roughly 60 to 100 times per minute at rest, modulated by the autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic stimulation increases heart rate and force. Parasympathetic input, primarily via the vagus nerve, slows it. Blood is more than fluid. It is a suspension of components in plasma. Plasma, the liquid matrix, is mostly water, but also contains proteins, albumin, clotting factors, electrolytes, glucose, hormones, and waste. Red blood cells, or erythrocytes, carry hemoglobin, a protein that binds oxygen in the lungs and releases it where needed. Each red cell lives about 120 days, and their deformable shape allows them to navigate capillaries efficiently. White blood cells, or leukocytes, defend against infection, and platelets help form clots at injury sites. Oxygen delivery depends not only on how much blood the heart pumps, cardiac output, heart rate, text stroke volume, but also on hemoglobin concentration and the oxygen saturation of that hemoglobin. During sleep, cardiac output decreases slightly, heart rate slows, and blood vessels widen, a state promoted by parasympathetic tone. This improves tissue perfusion for repair and decreases strain on the heart. Blood pressure reflects two forces: systolic pressure, peak during contraction, and diastolic pressure, minimum during relaxation. It is influenced by cardiac output and systemic vascular resistance, the degree to which vessels constrict or dilate. Baroreceptors in major arteries monitor this pressure and send signals to brainstem centers that adjust vessel tone and heart rate accordingly. This feedback keeps pressure within functional limits across postures and activities. Volume regulation is key. The kidneys, responding to signals like aldosterone and antidiuretic hormone, retain or excrete water and sodium to fine-tune blood volume. When blood volume falls, renin secretion from the kidneys initiates the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone cascade, leading to vasoconstriction and salt retention. When volume rises, atrial natriuretic peptide ANP, released by stretched atrial walls, promotes salt and water excretion. Temperature regulation also ties into the cardiovascular system. When body heat rises, skin vessels dilate to dissipate heat. When cold, they constrict to preserve core warmth. These adjustments are rapid and unconscious, another form of internal balance. Even blood composition signals change. During inflammation, white cell count increases. In chronic hypoxia, such as at altitude, the kidneys release erythropoietin, which stimulates red blood cell production. During endurance training, blood volume expands, improving stroke volume and cooling capacity. In dehydration, plasma volume shrinks. In overhydration, osmolality may fall, altering hormone release. The lymphatic system parallels the vascular network. It collects excess interstitial fluid, filters it through lymph nodes, and returns it to the bloodstream. Lymph nodes also serve as immune checkpoints. Disruption in lymph flow can cause localized swelling. Injury to vessels may impair clearance and immune surveillance. A clinical note offers orientation. Symptoms such as chest discomfort, shortness of breath with minimal effort, lightheadedness upon standing, swelling of the legs or feet, or rapid irregular heartbeats may reflect cardiovascular strain. Sudden severe symptoms, especially chest pain, radiating to the jaw or arm, or fainting, require immediate evaluation. Most fluctuations are harmless, but persistent patterns deserve attention. A short reflection: your heart does not stop for sleep, it slows and refines. The vessels adjust, the blood delivers, and the tissues restore. Night does not pause circulation, it redirects its purpose. As you rest, every cell receives oxygen quietly. Yet the oxygen is only half the story, because for cells to use it, carbon dioxide must leave. What system handles that exchange, breath by breath, linking air to blood with every rise and fall of your chest? Each breath you take draws the outside world inward and sends the inside world outward. This movement is more than air, it is exchange. The respiratory system manages this constant vital interchange. Oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. It does so not with force, but with gradients and architecture, matching structure to function with remarkable economy. Air begins its journey at the nose or mouth. Nasal passages filter, warm, and humidify the air using fine hairs, vibrissae, and mucus. This conditioning protects the lower airways and helps gas exchange proceed efficiently. From there, air moves through the pharynx, shared with the digestive tract, past the larynx, home of the vocal cords, and into the trachea, a rigid yet flexible airway, supported by C-shaped cartilage rings that maintain openness. The trachea divides into two primary bronchi, each entering a lung. Within the lungs, bronchi branch repeatedly into smaller bronchioles, forming a tree of ever-narrowing passages. The final branches are respiratory bronchioles, which terminate in alveolar ducts and then in alveolar sacs. These sacs contain alveoli, the functional units of gas exchange. An alveolus is a microscopic air sac surrounded by a web of capillaries. Its wall is composed of a single layer of thin epithelial cells, type 1 pneumocytes, supported by a basement membrane. Type 2 pneumocytes produce surfactant, a lipid protein mixture that reduces surface tension and prevents alveolar collapse during exhalation. Without surfactant, breathing would require more effort, especially at low lung volumes. Gas exchange occurs across the alveolar capillary membrane. Oxygen diffuses from alveolar air, high partial pressure, into capillary blood, lower partial pressure, binding to hemoglobin and red blood cells. Simultaneously, carbon dioxide generated by cellular metabolism diffuses from blood, higher partial pressure, into the alveolus to be exhaled. This diffusion depends on surface area, membrane thickness, and pressure gradients. Each lung contains approximately 300 million alveoli, yielding a surface area roughly equivalent to a tennis court. This vast interface, kept moist and thin, maximizes exchange efficiency. Blood flow is matched to ventilation regionally through a mechanism called ventilation perfusion VQ matching. When a region of lung receives less oxygen, its arterioles constrict, a unique response, diverting blood to better ventilated areas. This local tuning optimizes gas pickup and delivery. The mechanics of breathing rest on pressure. The lungs themselves have no muscles, they are passive. Breathing is driven by the diaphragm, a dome-shaped muscle separating chest from abdomen, and the intercostal muscles between ribs. When you inhale, the diaphragm contracts and moves downward, the chest cavity expands, intrapleural pressure becomes more negative, and air flows in. During exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes, pressure rises, and air flows out. At rest, exhalation is passive. During exertion, accessory muscles help actively expel air. This motion occurs within the pleural space, a thin, fluid-filled cavity between the visceral pleura covering the lungs and the parietal pleura lining the chest wall. The fluid allows the lungs to glide smoothly during expansion and recoil, while surface tension between layers ensures that the lungs follow chest wall movement. Respiratory rate and depth are controlled by centers in the medulla and pons. These centers receive input from chemoreceptors that sense arterial carbon dioxide, oxygen, and pH levels. Of these, carbon dioxide is the primary driver. Even small increases in blood CO2 prompt deeper, faster breathing to restore balance. This sensitivity ensures that acid-base status remains tightly regulated. Oxygen sensing occurs mainly in the carotid and aortic bodies, clusters of cells near major arteries. When oxygen drops significantly, these chemoreceptors send signals to increase respiratory drive. This backup system becomes especially important at high altitudes or in chronic lung disease. Carbon dioxide transport occurs in three forms: dissolved in plasma, about 5 to 10%, bound to hemoglobin, 20 to 30%, and most importantly, converted to bicarbonate, 60 to 70%, via the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. This reversible reaction CO2 plus H2O, TCO3, cleanus penstam. During sleep, breathing patterns change subtly. Respiratory rate slows, tidal volume decreases slightly, and responsiveness to CO2 lessens. This reduced sensitivity is safe under normal conditions, but makes some individuals vulnerable to hypoventilation, especially in obstructive sleep apnea, where airway collapse interrupts airflow. In healthy sleep, however, the system adjusts effortlessly. The respiratory system does more than exchange gases. It filters airborne particles using mucus and cilia, tiny hair-like structures that move contaminants toward the throat for swallowing. It warms and humidifies air, protecting delicate alveoli. It produces voice via vocal cord vibration. It participates in olfaction, enabling smell. It influences blood pH and temperature, and it provides a route for voluntary actions, sighing, laughing, crying, that intersect emotion and physiology. A brief clinical note gives clarity. If breathing becomes labored at rest, if you hear wheezing or feel tightness in the chest, or if nighttime awakenings with gasping or daytime fatigue from disrupted sleep emerge, these may reflect respiratory strain. Persistent cough, sputum with blood, or a drop in exercise tolerance should prompt professional evaluation. Most breath fluctuations are benign, but changes in pattern, persistence, or context matter. Hold this thought gently. Your breath is both automatic and willing. It moves without thought, but responds to thought, slowing when you pause, deepening when you focus, settling when you rest. As oxygen enters, it fuels not just muscles and mind, but the process that transforms food into usable energy. How is a meal unwound into parts, absorbed across cells, and reshaped into fuel for repair and sleep? What path does nourishment follow once swallowed? A single bite begins a long, quiet journey, one that transforms the external world into internal sustenance. This journey unfolds through the digestive system, a winding passage that breaks down, absorbs, and redistributes nutrients while preserving the body's inner balance. It is a process of deconstruction and precision, moving food through stages of mechanical motion and chemical change. The digestive system begins at the mouth, where mechanical and enzymatic digestion starts. Teeth break down food into smaller fragments, increasing surface area. Salivary glands secrete saliva, a mix of water, mucus, and enzymes. Amylase begins breaking down starches into simpler sugars. Lipase begins the first touches on fats. As you chew, your tongue moves the softened food into a cohesive mass called a bolus, ready for swallowing. Swallowing is a reflex guided by the brainstem. The bolus passes through the pharynx, where a flap called the epiglottis closes the airway momentarily to direct the food into the esophagus. The esophagus, a muscular tube, propels the bolus using peristalsis, wave-like contractions of smooth muscle that guide food gently downward. At the lower end, the lower esophageal sphincter relaxes to allow passage into the stomach. The stomach is not a static pouch, it is a dynamic muscular chamber that continues the work of digestion. Its walls secrete gastric juice, a mix of hydrochloric acid HCl and digestive enzymes such as pepsin. HCl lowers the pH dramatically, denaturing proteins and killing most microbes. Pepsin begins breaking proteins into smaller chains called peptides. The stomach's muscular walls churn food into a semi-liquid form known as chyme. A layer of mucus coats the stomach lining, protecting it from acid. Specialized cells regulate secretion. Parietal cells produce acid. Chief cells produce pepsinogen, the inactive form of pepsin. G cells release gastrin to stimulate acid production. D cells release somatostatin to inhibit it. These secretions respond to signals from the brain, stomach stretch, and chemical contents, an elegant feedback loop to optimize digestion and avoid harm. When the chyme is ready, it passes slowly through the pyloric sphincter into the small intestines, specifically the duodenum. Here the most intricate phase begins. The pancreas and liver contribute essential enzymes and emulsifiers. Pancreatic juice contains bicarbonate to neutralize stomach acid, and enzymes like amylase, carbohydrates, lipase, fats, trypsin, and chymotrypsin proteins. The liver produces bile stored in the gallbladder, which emulsifies fats into smaller droplets, increasing surface area for lipase to work. The small intestine spans about 6 meters and consists of 3 segments: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Its inner surface is lined with villi, finger-like projections, and microvilli on epithelial cells, forming a brush border. This architecture increases absorptive surface area to nearly that of a tennis court. Nutrients cross the epithelium through specialized transporters, monosaccharides, simple sugars via sodium-linked cotransporters, amino acids through similar channels, and fatty acids through diffusion into cells where they're reassembled and packed into chylomicrons, fat transport particles that enter lymphatic vessels before reaching the blood. Water, electrolytes, vitamins, and minerals are absorbed along different segments. Iron is absorbed mainly in the duodenum, vitamin B12 in the ileum, but only when bound to intrinsic factor from the stomach. The small intestine is not just a passive absorber, it uses sensors, hormones, and nerves to regulate motility, secretion, and blood flow. The enteric nervous system, sometimes called the second brain, contains as many neurons as the spinal cord and independently coordinates peristalsis and secretion, though it remains in communication with the central and autonomic systems. What remains of digestion, mostly water, fiber, and unabsorbed material, enters the large intestine through the ileocecal valve. The colon reabsorbs water and electrolytes, transforming the liquid chyme into semi-solid feces. It also serves as home to the gut microbiota, trillions of bacteria, archaea, and fungi that break down fiber, synthesize certain vitamins like K and B12, produce short-chain fatty acids which nourish colon cells, and influence immune function, metabolism, and even mood through the gut-brain axis. The colon proceeds through 4 parts: ascending, transverse, descending, and sigmoid. Along this path, material is compacted and stored. Eventually, feces reach the rectum, where stretch receptors trigger the urge to defecate. The anal canal, guarded by internal, involuntary, and external voluntary sphincters, manages final release. The pace of digestion varies. A typical meal may take 4 to 6 hours to leave the stomach, 6-8 more to pass through the small intestine, and up to 24 to 48 hours to traverse the colon. This slow rhythm allows thorough absorption, regulated by feedback from hormones like cholecystokinin, CCK, secretin, and motilin. Nutrient sensing shapes broader physiology. The presence of fats and amino acids stimulates CCK, which contracts the gallbladder and slows gastric emptying. Acid in the duodenum prompts secretin release, stimulating bicarbonate from the pancreas. Ghrelin rises before meals to trigger hunger. Peptide YY and GLP-1 rise after, signaling fullness and enhancing insulin response. A brief clinical orientation provides safety. Persistent abdominal pain, unintentional weight loss, chronic diarrhea or constipation, black or bloody stools, or difficulty swallowing are red flags. These symptoms, especially when progressive or accompanied by fatigue or fever, deserve prompt evaluation. Mild bloating, gas, or irregularity is common, but patterns matter more than isolated episodes. A short reflection, you eat, and the body transforms. It does not require your focus to do so. Each layer knows its task. Ingest, break down, absorb, rebuild, and release, without noise, without command, only the rhythm of nourishment unfolding. As the body absorbs nutrients, it must also maintain purity. Waste must be filtered. Fluids must be balanced and chemical stability preserved. What system watches over the internal waters, filtering without pause, even as you sleep? Deep within the lower back, 2 silent organs work hour by hour to filter, balance, and renew. They do not move or pulse, they do not ask for attention, yet every drop of your blood flows through them many times each day. This is the urinary system, a collection of structures that monitors the body's internal chemistry, adjusts water and salt levels, and eliminates what is no longer needed. At its center are the kidneys, paired, bean-shaped organs about the size of fists, positioned just below the rib cage on either side of the spine. Each kidney contains about 1 million nephrons, the functional units responsible for filtration and reabsorption. Together, they filter roughly 180 liters of plasma per day, yet only about 1 to 2 liters of urine are ultimately excreted. The rest is reclaimed, adjusted, and returned to circulation. Blood enters each kidney through the renal artery, which branches into smaller arterioles and finally reaches a cluster of capillaries known as the glomerulus. This is the site of filtration, a delicate sieve where blood pressure forces water and small solutes such as glucose, sodium, potassium, urea, and bicarbonate into a surrounding capsule called Bowman's capsule. Larger molecules like proteins and cells remain in the bloodstream. The filtered fluid, now called filtrate, enters the nephron's tubular system. As it travels through the proximal tubule, loop of Henle, distal tubule, and collecting duct, the composition of the fluid is fine-tuned. The proximal tubule reabsorbs the majority of filtered substances, about 65% of sodium, chloride, and water, nearly all glucose and amino acids. Active transport mechanisms aided by specialized carriers reclaim these essential elements. The loop of Henle descends into the kidney's medulla and plays a vital role in concentrating urine. Its descending limb is permeable to water but not to solutes, while the ascending limb is impermeable to water and actively pumps sodium and chloride into the surrounding interstitial fluid. This creates a countercurrent multiplier system, a gradient of increasing osmolarity from cortex to medulla that allows later segments to reabsorb water depending on the body's needs. The distal tubule and collecting duct further refine the filtrate. Their permeability is controlled by hormones. Antidiuretic hormone ADH, released by the posterior pituitary in response to dehydration or high plasma osmolality, inserts water channels aquaporins into the collecting duct membrane. This allows water to be reabsorbed, concentrating the urine. Aldosterone, secreted by the adrenal cortex in response to low sodium or low blood pressure, promotes sodium reabsorption and potassium excretion, further drawing water back into the bloodstream. Once processed, the final urine containing excess water, electrolytes, hydrogen ions, urea, creatinine, and other wastes flows from the collecting ducts into the renal pelvis, then into the ureters. These narrow muscular tubes carry urine to the urinary bladder where it is stored. The bladder gradually expands, its smooth muscle detrusor stretching without discomfort. When full, stretch receptors signal the spinal cord and brainstem, triggering the micturition reflex. Voiding can be delayed voluntarily via the external urethral sphincter, a rare instance of conscious control in an otherwise automatic system. Urinary composition reflects dynamic balance. The kidneys regulate not only water and salt, but also acid-base status. When blood pH drops, acidosis, the kidneys excrete more hydrogen ions and reabsorb bicarbonate. In alkalosis, they do the reverse. These adjustments are slower than respiratory compensations but more durable, hours to days rather than seconds. The kidneys also produce erythropoietin, a hormone that stimulates red blood cell production in the bone marrow. They help activate vitamin D, converting it into its hormonal form, calcitriol, which regulates calcium absorption in the gut. These roles extend kidney function beyond filtration into hematologic and skeletal domains. Urine output fluctuates naturally. In daylight, ADH levels are lower, urine is more dilute. At night, ADH rises, slowing output and conserving water to minimize sleep interruption. This circadian pattern aligns with other nighttime shifts, lower heart rate, parasympathetic dominance, and tissue repair. During sleep, the kidneys quietly support balance without disruption. The urinary system responds to posture, hydration, salt intake, and activity. After a salty meal, aldosterone promotes sodium excretion. After exercise, ADH prevents dehydration. Volume expansion triggers atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP, which promotes salt and water loss, reducing pressure. These hormonal messages shape tubular function without disturbing your awareness. The system also coordinates with the cardiovascular and respiratory systems. Hypovolemia, low blood volume, reduces renal perfusion and activates the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, RIS, promoting vasoconstriction and water retention. Hypercapnia, elevated carbon dioxide, shifts acid-base handling. These cross-system interactions maintain homeostasis with shared goals, stability, clarity, and readiness. A brief clinical orientation offers clarity. If urine output declines markedly, if it appears foamy, suggesting protein, pink or red, suggesting blood, or dark, suggesting dehydration or bile pigments, or if there is persistent flank pain, burning with urination, or swelling in the legs or around the eyes, these can signal stress in renal function. Sudden changes or persistent symptoms merit professional evaluation. However, mild day-to-day fluctuations, volume, frequency, color, are often physiological and reversible. A short reflection: your inner rivers are always flowing. The kidneys do not ask whether you are awake. They filter, reclaim, adjust, and release, all without pause. In sleep, they switch to quiet efficiency, preserving what you need and letting go of what you don't. But some threats cannot be filtered. They must be recognized, neutralized, and remembered. What system patrols the body for invaders, learns from each encounter, and protects without rest, even while you sleep? Even now, as you lie in stillness, a quiet patrol is underway. Cells drift through blood and lymph, surveying every tissue, scanning for unfamiliar shapes, detecting damage, remembering past encounters. This is your immune system, a distributed network of defenses that distinguishes self from non-self and maintains the body's integrity without noise or rest. The immune system is not localized to a single organ. It resides in the blood, the lymph nodes, the skin, the gut, the bone marrow, and the interstitial spaces between cells. It consists of two interlocking arms: innate immunity, which responds quickly and broadly, and adaptive immunity, which responds slowly but specifically and with memory. Begin with the innate system. It is the body's first line of defense. Skin and mucous membranes serve as physical barriers. Their cells produce antimicrobial peptides and enzymes. In the respiratory tract, mucus traps particles and cilia sweep them upward. In the gut, acidic pH and tight junctions prevent unwanted entry. These barriers are passive but not inert. They signal when breached. Beneath the surface, innate immune cells act rapidly. Neutrophils, the most abundant white blood cells, migrate to sites of infection or injury, engulf pathogens, and release enzymes that neutralize them. Macrophages, larger cells derived from monocytes, also engulf invaders and damaged cells. They reside in tissues and contribute to cleanup and repair. Dendritic cells act as sentinels and messengers. They sample the environment, internalize fragments of pathogens, and present them to T cells, bridging innate and adaptive immunity. Natural killer NK cells patrol for cells lacking normal identity markers, such as virus-infected or cancerous cells, and induce apoptosis, a form of programmed cell death. The innate system recognizes patterns through pattern recognition receptors, PRRs, such as toll-like receptors, TLRs, which detect common microbial motifs. This recognition triggers cascades that release cytokines, chemical signals that recruit and activate other immune cells. These cytokines include interleukins, interferons, and tumor necrosis factors. The result is inflammation, heat, redness, swelling, pain, signs of increased blood flow, permeability, and immune cell recruitment. Meanwhile, the adaptive immune system prepares a more tailored response. It centers on lymphocytes, B cells, and T cells. B cells develop in the bone marrow and, when activated, differentiate into plasma cells that produce antibodies, proteins that bind to specific antigens, foreign molecules, and mark them for destruction. Antibodies can neutralize viruses, block bacterial toxins, and enhance phagocytosis. T cells originate in the bone marrow but mature in the thymus. There are several types. Helper T cells, CD4 POS, coordinate the immune response by releasing cytokines that activate B cells. Cytotoxic T cells, CD8 POS, destroy infected or abnormal cells by inducing apoptosis, and regulatory T cells dampen responses to prevent overactivity and autoimmunity. Each lymphocyte expresses a unique receptor generated by genetic recombination, a process that shuffles DNA segments to create diversity. This means the adaptive system can recognize an enormous array of potential threats, including ones never previously encountered. Upon activation, some B and T cells become memory cells. These long-lived cells persist in the body and mount faster, stronger responses if the same antigen appears again. This is the basis of lasting immunity. Vaccination works by introducing a harmless version of a pathogen or part of one, allowing the immune system to prepare and remember without causing illness. Lymph nodes are stations where antigen-presenting cells meet lymphocytes. These small bean-shaped structures filter lymph, a clear fluid that bathes tissues and drains into lymphatic vessels. When a threat is detected, the local node enlarges as immune cells multiply and coordinate their response. The spleen plays a similar role for the blood. It filters pathogens, recycles red blood cells, and stores immune cells. Bone marrow produces all blood cells, including immune cells, and maintains a supply of undifferentiated progenitors. The gut-associated lymphoid tissue, GLT, contains specialized immune structures like Peyer's patches. It monitors the massive interface between the body and the outside world found in the digestive tract. Here tolerance must balance with readiness. Commensal microbes are permitted, invaders are not. Tolerance is vital. The immune system must avoid attacking the body's own cells. During development, self-reactive lymphocytes are eliminated or silenced, a process called central tolerance. Peripheral tolerance mechanisms maintain control afterward. When these fail, autoimmune diseases can arise. Conversely, when immune surveillance lapses, infections or cancers may grow unchecked. The immune system also interacts with other systems. Cytokines can induce fever, suppress appetite, and alter sleep patterns. During sleep, certain immune functions are enhanced: T-cell proliferation, antibody responses, and memory consolidation. Melatonin modulates immunity. Cortisol, which rises in the early morning, tempers it. This dynamic regulation prevents overactivation and supports recovery. Chronic stress, poor sleep, and inadequate nutrition can impair immune responses, leading to increased susceptibility to infection or prolonged inflammation. Conversely, sufficient rest, micronutrients such as zinc, selenium, and vitamins A, C, D, and social connection can support immune resilience. A brief clinical lens invites awareness. Persistent fever, night sweats, unexplained weight loss, swollen lymph nodes, or frequent infections may signal immune dysregulation. Unusual fatigue, rashes, or prolonged wound healing are subtle cues. These patterns, especially when new or worsening, warrant professional evaluation. A soft reflection. Your immune system is both shield and scholar. It remembers, adapts, and defends without rest. Even now, it scans and responds, quiet, precise, and always learning. But muscles do not move by immune signal alone. Movement requires a system of force and control, one that contracts without tearing, holds without thought, and rests while remaining ready. What enables the body to move through the world and return to stillness and sleep? Now let us turn our attention to the system that gives shape to motion, to stillness, to subtle tension and effortless control. This is the muscular system, a network of fibers woven through the body, enabling every gesture, every breath, every quiet shift in posture. It is not just the force behind lifting and walking, but also the steady rhythm of the heart, the gentle churn of digestion, the smooth dilation of blood vessels, and the silent coordination that allows you to move without even thinking. There are 3 main types of muscle in the body, each with its own pace and purpose. First, the skeletal muscles. These are the muscles we most often imagine, attached to bones by strong cords called tendons. These muscles move the limbs, tilt the head, hold the spine in place, and allow the body to interact with the world. Skeletal muscle is voluntary, meaning it is under conscious control. When you decide to reach, to stand, to turn, these muscles respond. They contract and relax in coordinated patterns, guided by signals from the nervous system. Each skeletal muscle is made up of bundles of fibers, long cylindrical cells arranged in rows. Inside, tiny units called sarcomeres slide past each other, pulling the muscle shorter with each contraction. This sliding is powered by ATP, the body's energy molecule, and regulated by calcium and specialized proteins. With training, these fibers grow thicker and more capable, but even in rest, they maintain a quiet tension, a readiness to act, to shift, to stabilize. Second, the cardiac muscle, found only in the heart. It shares some structural features with skeletal muscle, but it works without conscious control. Its rhythm is set by pacemaker cells, not the brain. These cells initiate electrical impulses that spread through the heart in a precise sequence, causing it to contract and pump blood. Cardiac muscle fibers are interconnected by intercalated discs, which allow them to beat in unison, one smooth, coordinated heartbeat after another. Even as you sleep, your heart continues to contract, adjusting to your needs. It may beat more slowly now, conserving energy, allowing your body to repair and restore. Third, the smooth muscles. These line the walls of internal organs, the stomach, intestines, bladder, blood vessels, and more. They contract without awareness, guided by the autonomic nervous system and local signals. Smooth muscle moves food through the digestive tract, regulates the diameter of blood vessels, and empties the bladder when full. It works with grace and subtlety, in patterns of contraction and relaxation. Unlike skeletal muscle, it does not tire easily. It holds tone over long periods, managing the body's interior without thought. Muscles do not act alone. They are anchored to bones, and bones are moved through the cooperation of muscle pairs, one contracting while the other lengthens. This coordination allows for smooth motion, precise control, and balance. Muscles are richly supplied with blood, oxygen, and nutrients. They are also filled with sensors, stretch receptors, and proprioceptors that inform the brain of their position, tension, and motion. This is why you can move in the dark, maintain balance without looking or feel when something is heavy before lifting it. The muscular system also works closely with the endocrine and nervous systems. During exercise, for instance, adrenaline increases blood flow to muscles. Hormones like growth hormone and testosterone influence muscle development. The brain plans movements, sends signals down the spinal cord, and refines them through feedback. Even your emotions are tied to muscles. A smile, a frown, a gesture of reaching or withdrawing, all are muscular expressions of inner life. In sleep, most skeletal muscles are relaxed. During REM sleep, they are even temporarily paralyzed, a protection that prevents the body from acting out dreams. Only the muscles of the heart, diaphragm, and eyes remain active. This nighttime stillness is not a loss of function, but a vital phase of restoration. Muscles repair tiny tears, replenish energy stores, and respond to the signals of growth and renewal. A soft note, muscle mass declines with age, especially without use, but the system remains adaptable. Even gentle movement, walking, stretching, breathing deeply helps maintain tone, circulation, and coordination. You do not need to train or strain to care for your muscles. You need only move with awareness, rest with purpose, and allow the body the space to renew. As you lie still now, your muscles are at peace. Their fibers are unwinding, their tension dissolving, their readiness softening, and yet they are not inert. They are held in readiness, a quiet potential that will rise again with waking. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the skeletal system, the frame that holds us upright, the structure that gives form to motion and protection to the body's deepest organs. But for now, allow your muscles to rest, allow them to breathe. They have held you, moved you, carried you, and now they are carried by sleep. Now that we've explored the muscles that move you, let us turn to what those muscles move, the skeleton, the silent framework that supports your body, shapes your form, and protects your most vital organs. The skeletal system is more than bones. It is a living, adaptive structure, strong yet light, rigid yet dynamic. It holds you upright, anchors your muscles, protects your brain and heart, and beneath its surface it produces blood, stores minerals, and constantly renews itself. The adult human skeleton is composed of 206 bones. These bones come in many shapes, long and slender, like the femur, flat like the shoulder blade, small and delicate like those in your fingers or the inner ear. Each one is tailored to its role. Let us begin with the spine, your central column. It is not a rigid pole, but a stack of 33 vertebrae separated by soft discs, shaped in gentle curves to absorb shock and support motion. The spine protects the spinal cord, yet allows for bending, twisting, and balance. From this center, the rib cage extends outward, made of curved bones joined to the spine and the sternum. The ribs protect the heart and lungs, but they are not fixed. They rise and fall with each breath, flexible, responsive, alive. The skull, a complex puzzle of bones, houses the brain. Its smooth outer shell belies the intricate inner curves that hold and shield the senses. The eyes, ears, nose, and mouth are all cradled within its design. The limbs branch from the torso, arms, legs, hands, and feet, all built from combinations of long bones, joints, and connective tissues. These allow for motion, grasping, standing, running, dancing. Where bones meet, there are joints, and these vary in type. Hinge joints like the elbow or knee allow for bending and straightening. Ball and socket joints like the shoulder and hip offer wide fluid motion. Gliding joints, such as those in the wrist, permit subtle shifts and slides. Every joint is cushioned by cartilage, a smooth, resilient tissue that reduces friction and absorbs shock. Surrounding many joints is synovial fluid, a lubricant that allows for near frictionless movement. The bones themselves are not dry or inert. They are living tissues made of a dense outer layer and a spongy inner core. Within this spongy tissue lies bone marrow, soft, red, or yellow, depending on its function. Red marrow produces blood cells, red cells for oxygen, white cells for immunity, platelets for healing. Yellow marrow stores fat, a reserve of energy. The skeleton also serves as a mineral bank. Calcium and phosphorus, essential for nerve signals and muscle contraction, are stored here. When the body needs them, bones release small amounts into the blood, regulated by hormones like parathyroid hormone and calcitonin. Bones are built by cells called osteoblasts. They are broken down by osteoclasts, and this cycle, building and resorbing, is continuous throughout life. In childhood, it allows growth. In adulthood, it maintains strength. In older age, it shifts again. Weight-bearing activity helps preserve bone density. Gentle movement, walking, stretching, all of these speak to the bones in their own language, one of use, of purpose. The skeletal system also has a hidden connection to the immune system. Inside certain bones, the marrow produces white blood cells, those same guardians we explored earlier. In this way, your bones do not only hold you, they help protect you from within. Even as you sleep, your bones are quietly alive. Microscopic remodeling continues. Old bone is replaced by new. Injuries, even tiny ones, are mended. Calcium is shared. Marrow works in silence. And in this stillness, the structure holds. You may feel your spine gently supported by the bed, your joints softened by rest, your limbs relaxed. The skeleton carries no weight in sleep. It simply exists, strong, resting, yet ever ready. Bones outlive almost everything. Long after other tissues fade, bone remains. A record of life, of motion, of shape. But tonight, let the bones do nothing. Let them rest in perfect alignment, in quiet support. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the skin, the body's outermost shield and its most sensitive interface. The integumentary system protects, senses, and even communicates. But for now, rest in your frame. Your foundation is whole. Now we come to the outermost layer of your body, what you touch, what the world sees, what guards you against the elements. This is the integumentary system, composed of your skin, hair, nails, and associated glands. It is your first line of defense, your most sensitive surface, your regulator of heat, your barrier, and your silent communicator. Let us begin with the skin, your body's largest organ. It covers you completely, adapting to movement, stretching without tearing, shedding and renewing constantly. In total, it accounts for about 16% of your body weight. The skin has three main layers. The epidermis, the outermost layer, composed of cells called keratinocytes. It provides a waterproof shield. It is also where melanocytes reside, producing melanin, the pigment that gives skin its color and protects against UV light. The dermis, beneath the epidermis, thicker and more alive with activity. It contains blood vessels, nerve endings, sweat glands, sebaceous oil glands, and hair follicles. This layer supports the epidermis and senses the world. The hypodermis, also known as the subcutaneous layer, it contains fat and connective tissue, helping to insulate the body and cushion internal structures. Every square inch of skin contains thousands of nerve endings, allowing it to sense touch, temperature, vibration, and pain. This sensory input is swift, precise, and essential to survival. The skin is not just a sensor, but a protector. It guards against infection by keeping microbes out, dehydration by sealing in moisture, chemical and physical harm with its tough outer layer. The sweat glands in the dermis help regulate temperature. When you're warm, they release sweat. As it evaporates, it cools the body. This process happens even as you sleep, adjusting subtly to the environment. Sebaceous glands secrete sebum, an oily substance that keeps skin soft and forms a barrier against bacteria and water loss. Now consider the hair. Though often viewed as cosmetic, each hair serves subtle functions. Scalp hair insulates and protects. Eyelashes and eyebrows shield the eyes from dust and sweat. Body hair aids in sensing movement across the skin. Hair grows from follicles, tiny organs nestled deep in the dermis. Each strand grows, rests, and sheds in cycles. Though individual hairs may fall, the follicles remain, ready to grow anew. Then there are the nails, hard structures made of keratin, found on the tips of fingers and toes. Nails protect these delicate ends and enhance fine touch and grasping. Skin also plays a role in vitamin D synthesis. When sunlight touches the skin, it begins a chemical process that helps your body absorb calcium, essential for bones and other systems. The skin is also part of your immune system. It contains Langerhans cells, immune sentinels that detect intruders and signal the body to respond. And just beneath the surface, microbiota, billions of friendly microorganisms live in harmony with you. They help defend against pathogens, maintain pH balance, and support immune function. Even now, as you lie at rest, your skin is at work. It adjusts blood flow to warm or cool you. It regenerates, forming new cells to replace the old. It senses your bedding, the air, the lightest breeze. It is a boundary, yes, but also a bridge, a communicator, a mirror of inner health. Skin reflects emotion. It blushes with joy, pales with fear. It expresses state through texture, tone, and temperature. And it is constantly renewing. The outermost cells die and flake away, replaced by new ones rising up from below, a process that takes about a month, repeating endlessly, quietly. You need not will this to happen. Your integument does not need reminders. Like all systems, it simply serves. And so tonight, as you rest, your skin wraps you in protection. It guards your boundaries. It feels the softness of fabric. It whispers to your nerves, you are safe. In the next part of our journey, we will gently explore the reproductive system, the cycle of renewal, connection, and continuity. But for now, feel your skin, not as something separate from you, but as part of you, whole living and always in touch. Now we arrive at a system both deeply personal and universally shared, a system that carries not only life, but the potential to create it. This is the reproductive system, the source of physical intimacy, the cradle of human development, and the bridge between generations. It differs in structure between males and females, but serves a shared purpose, the continuation of life. Unlike most other systems which function continuously from birth, the reproductive system matures gradually. Its full activation typically begins during puberty, triggered by hormonal signals that awaken its organs into function. Let us begin gently with the female reproductive system, a rhythmic inward system designed to nurture. It includes the ovaries, two almond-shaped organs that release ova or eggs, the fallopian tubes which guide the egg from ovary to uterus, the uterus, a muscular organ where a fertilized egg may implant and grow, the cervix, the lower opening of the uterus, the vagina, a flexible passage that connects the uterus to the outside world. Each month, under hormonal guidance, an egg matures in one ovary and is released, a process called ovulation. If sperm are present, fertilization may occur. If not, the body gently releases the egg and the uterine lining in a quiet shedding called menstruation. This monthly cycle of rising estrogen, ovulation, and progesterone regulates fertility, emotion, and even temperature. It is not just reproductive. It affects mood, sleep, and skin. It is a whole body rhythm. The uterus, when called upon, becomes a sanctuary for new life. Its walls expand and adapt, its vessels nourish, and when the time is right, its muscles contract, guiding the newborn into the world. The male reproductive system is designed for outward delivery. Its primary components include the testes where sperm and testosterone are produced, the epididymis where sperm mature, the vas deferens which transports sperm, the seminal vesicles and prostate gland which contribute fluids to nourish and protect sperm, the penis through which semen is released. Sperm production is continuous, a quiet process called spermatogenesis, which takes place in tightly coiled tubules within the testes. It is guided by hormones such as testosterone, which also shapes male traits like voice, body hair, and muscle mass. The reproductive systems are governed by a delicate hormonal interplay. The hypothalamus sends signals to the pituitary gland. The pituitary releases FSH and LH, which stimulate the ovaries or testes. In turn, these organs release estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, shaping cycles, moods, and functions. This system is deeply linked to emotion. It is involved in bonding, attraction, and the sense of connection. Hormones like oxytocin, released during closeness, create feelings of warmth and trust. But reproduction is not only about creating life, it is also about growth, maturity, and regeneration. In infancy, the system lies dormant. In youth, it awakens. In adulthood, it stabilizes. And in later life, it gradually slows. This slowing is natural. In women, menopause signals the end of the monthly cycle, accompanied by changes in hormone levels. In men, testosterone levels may decline, gently adjusting energy, mood, and strength. Still, the reproductive system remains part of you throughout life. Its influence subtle yet continuous. Even now, as you rest, the body may be regulating these hormones, repairing tissues, preparing cycles, balancing the intricate chemistry of life. And it does so without urgency, without force. Whether or not life is created, this system remains meaningful. It is a part of what makes you human, capable of intimacy, of creation, of care. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the sensory systems, how we see, hear, taste, smell, and touch, the body's windows to the world. But for now, rest in the knowledge that within you lies a system of renewal and connection. Whether active or resting, young or aged, this system continues its quiet rhythm. It is not just biological, it is relational. It is life's invitation to continuity. As we journey deeper into the quiet marvel of the human body, we arrive at the edges, at the gates through which experience enters. These are the sensory systems, finely tuned structures that allow us to see light, hear sound, taste flavor, smell scent, and feel the world around us. They are not mere detectors, they are interpreters, storytellers, translators, transforming raw stimuli into perception, memory, and meaning. Let us begin gently with vision, the sense most often associated with clarity. At the heart of this system lie the eyes, twin orbs housed in protective sockets, cushioned by fat and moved by 6 small muscles each. Light first enters through the cornea, a clear dome that bends the incoming rays. Then through the pupil, a dark opening that adjusts in size based on light, controlled by the surrounding iris, the colored part of the eye. Behind this, the lens refines the focus, adjusting shape with the help of tiny muscles. The light then reaches the retina, a delicate layer of cells at the back of the eye. Here, the magic begins. Photoreceptor cells, rods and cones, detect light and color. Rods sense dim light and shape, cones detect detail and hue. These signals are converted into nerve impulses, traveling along the optic nerve to the visual cortex in the brain. And just like that, you see, not as a camera captures, but as a brain understands. Now, let us listen. Hearing begins not in the ear canal, but in the air itself, vibrations moving outward like ripples in a pond. These vibrations enter the outer ear, funneled inward toward the eardrum, which vibrates in response. These vibrations move 3 tiny bones, the malleus, incus, and stapes, the smallest in the body. The motion passes into the cochlea, a spiral-shaped organ filled with fluid and lined with hair-like cells. As the fluid waves move, the hairs bend, triggering nerve impulses sent to the brain's auditory cortex. And thus we hear not just noise, but tone, emotion, language. Now we move inward to the soft palate of taste. The tongue, covered in small bumps called papillae, contains taste buds, each a cluster of receptor cells. These receptors detect 5 primary tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami, a savory depth. When activated, they send signals to the brainstem and then to the gustatory cortex. But taste is not alone. It is shaped by smell, texture, temperature. Together they create flavor sensation layered with memory and meaning. Smell, or olfaction, is perhaps the most ancient of the senses. Airborne molecules enter the nose and dissolve in the mucus of the olfactory epithelium, where millions of receptors wait. Each receptor is tuned to specific shapes of molecules. Once activated, they send signals to the olfactory bulb, then to deeper parts of the brain, including the limbic system, where memory and emotion reside. This is why a scent can transport you suddenly and vividly to another place, another time. Now, the sense of touch, the most widespread, the most constant. The skin is your largest organ, and it is alive with sensation. It contains mechanoreceptors for pressure and texture, thermoreceptors for temperature, nociceptors for pain, proprioceptors in the muscles and joints, helping you know where your limbs are even with your eyes closed. Touch is both protective and connective. It alerts us to harm, but also to warmth, to affection, to grounding. Though each sense is distinct, they do not work in isolation. Sight and sound align to help us understand speech. Taste and smell blend to create flavor. Touch and vision collaborate to guide movement. This integration happens in the brain, where signals converge and perception forms. It is not a static image, but a living interpretation. Even now, as you rest, your sensory systems quiet, but remain receptive. You may feel the coolness of a pillow, hear the soft murmur of distant sounds, sense the rhythm of your own breath. These are the gentle whispers of perception. You are not cut off from the world in sleep. You are simply tuned to a softer frequency. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the final system, the integumentary system, your skin, hair, and nails, the boundary between inner life and the world beyond. But for now, rest in the knowledge that your senses continue their quiet watch. Seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, feeling, guiding you, grounding you, helping you know the world and your place in it. Now we arrive at the body's outermost layer. Not a wall, but a living interface. Not a shell, but a sensitive shield. This is the integumentary system, composed of your skin, hair, and nails. Though often taken for granted, it is among the most vital of systems, guarding, sensing, regulating, and even healing. It is the first thing others see, but also the first line of defense between you and the world. Let us begin with the skin, the largest organ of the human body. It is not just a covering, it is a dynamic, responsive layer composed of 3 main parts. Epidermis, the outermost layer, made mostly of keratinocytes, cells filled with keratin, a tough protein that resists damage. New cells are created at the base of the epidermis and gradually move upward, flaking off after a few weeks. This layer also includes melanocytes, which produce melanin, the pigment that gives skin its color and protects against ultraviolet light. Dermis, the middle layer, thicker and filled with connective tissue. It houses blood vessels, nerve endings, hair follicles, sweat glands, and sebaceous oil glands. It is here that the skin feels, sweats, heals. Co-collagen and elastin fibers in the dermis give skin its strength and flexibility. Hypodermis, or subcutaneous layer, the deepest layer made of fat and connective tissue, cushioning the body and providing insulation. Together, these layers do far more than cover you. Protection shields internal organs from bacteria, chemicals, and physical harm. Regulation through sweat and blood flow, it helps maintain body temperature. Sensation packed with nerve endings, it senses pressure, temperature, pain, and touch. Synthesis when touched by sunlight, the skin helps produce vitamin D, essential for calcium absorption and bone health. Excretion sweat carries small amounts of waste, including salt and urea. Healing when cut or damaged, the skin initiates a complex process, closing the wound, fighting infection, and rebuilding tissue, often with little trace. As you lie still now, your skin continues its work, regulating warmth, adjusting moisture, feeling the world even in sleep. Emerging from follicles rooted deep in the dermis, hair is made of keratin, the same protein found in skin and nails. Though soft, it protects. Eyebrows and eyelashes guard the eyes. That scalp hair insulates the head. Body hair, though finer, plays a sensory role, detecting the slightest movement or change in air. Each hair grows from a follicle, nourished by blood and influenced by hormones. Hair grows in cycles, growing, resting, shedding, a quiet rhythm you never need to control. At the tips of your fingers and toes, nails provide precision, protection, and strength. They are formed from layers of keratin compacted tightly. At the base lies the nail matrix where new cells form. The cuticle protects the area where nail and skin meet. The lunula, the pale crescent at the base, is the visible part of the matrix. Nails grow slowly, steadily, quietly, a sign of inner health made visible. Skin is not just a barrier, it reflects and responds. It blushes with emotion. It pales in fear or chills in cold. It changes color with health, with temperature, with the passage of time. It is one of the few systems that mirrors inner feeling. Touch, too, is a language. A gentle brush can soothe. A warm hand can comfort. A cool compress can ease. The skin does not just sense, it connects. Even when wounded, the integumentary system moves swiftly to protect. Blood vessels constrict to reduce bleeding. Cells rush to the area to clean and rebuild. New tissue forms, a soft patch woven from within. In this way, the body reminds you, even damage can lead to healing. Even injury can be met with grace. And so, as you rest, your skin continues to serve. It holds in warmth, it feels the world, it breathes, it heals. A soft, living shield. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the system through which new life begins. The reproductive system, a network of continuity and potential. But for now, let your body rest within its gentle covering. Your skin is doing its quiet work. Now we arrive at a system unlike any other. It is not essential for individual survival, but it is the system through which humanity continues. This is the reproductive system, a quiet, powerful network of potential and renewal. It is a system that carries the blueprint of life. A system through which cells merge, divide, and become something entirely new. It begins with biology, but extends into something deeper, a legacy, a story written in flesh and time. Let us gently explore both forms of this system, male and female, each distinct, each necessary, and each capable of participating in the creation of life. The female reproductive system, internally located, this system is protected, cyclical, and deeply intelligent. Its design centers around preparation, nurturing, and potential. Main structures: ovaries, 2 small glands located on either side of the uterus. They produced eggs, ova, and secrete hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. From birth, the ovaries contain all the eggs a woman will ever have, millions, most of them dormant. Each month, typically 1 egg matures and is released in a process called ovulation. Fallopian tubes, thin tubes connecting the ovaries to the uterus. They are the path the egg travels after ovulation. Fertilization, if it occurs, usually happens here. Uterus, a hollow, muscular organ, lined with endometrium, a tissue that thickens in preparation to receive a fertilized egg. If fertilization does not occur, this lining is shed during menstruation. If pregnancy occurs, the uterus becomes a cradle for life, expanding and nourishing the growing child. Cervix, the narrow passage between the uterus and the vagina. It remains closed and protective, opening slightly during menstruation or childbirth. Vagina, a muscular canal that connects the internal system to the outside. It receives sperm, allows menstrual flow to exit, and forms the birth canal. Together, these organs operate in cycles, most commonly the menstrual cycle, lasting about 28 days, governed by hormones and finely tuned signals between the brain, the ovaries, and the uterus. The male reproductive system, external and continuous. The male reproductive system is designed for production and delivery of reproductive cells, sperm. Main structures. Testes. Housed in the scrotum, the testes produce sperm and testosterone. Within them are seminiferous tubules, where sperm cells form through a process called spermatogenesis. Unlike eggs, sperm are created throughout life, millions each day. Epididymis. A coiled structure on the back of each testicle where sperm mature and are stored. Vas deferens. A long tube that transports mature sperm during ejaculation. Seminal vesicles and prostate gland. These glands produce fluids that mix with sperm to form semen, a nourishing and protective medium. Urethra and penis. During ejaculation, semen travels through the urethra and exits the body through the penis. The entire process is coordinated by hormones like testosterone, luteinizing hormone LH, and follicle-stimulating hormone FSH, just as in the female system. When sperm meets egg, typically in the fallopian tube, the outer layers of the egg allow only one sperm to enter. Their genetic material fuses, creating a zygote, a single cell containing all the information to grow into a human being. This cell divides, multiplies, travels to the uterus, and if conditions are right, implants into the wall. Thus begins pregnancy, and a journey of development unfolds. From embryo to fetus to child, all within the protective walls of the womb. This system is not always active in the same way. In childhood, it is quiet, waiting. In puberty, it awakens. In adulthood, it follows cycles of fertility and rest. In later life, it slows again, menopause in females, and a gradual decline in hormone production in males. At each phase, the reproductive system reflects deeper rhythms of aging, of change, of continuity. While this system is defined by anatomy and physiology, it is also the source of connection, intimacy, and family. Its workings are silent, but its impact echoes through generations. And though not all choose or are able to create new life, the presence of this system still plays a role in health, in identity, in emotion. Even as you rest now, these systems continue their gentle work. Hormones flow, cells replenish, balance is maintained. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore the sensory systems, how you hear, see, taste, and touch the world. But for now, know that within you lies the quiet architecture of creation, a story of life passed forward, and a body resting in peaceful continuity. As you settle deeper into rest, let us now gently shift our attention outward to the ways your body perceives the world around you. This is the domain of the sensory systems, the subtle, intricate networks that let you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Each sense is a channel, a portal through which the world enters your awareness, often without effort, often without notice. And yet their work shapes your every moment. Even now, as you drift, your senses are still quietly attuned. Your skin feels the texture of your sheets, your ears register the softness of sound, and your body adjusts continuously in response. Let us explore each of these senses gently, with appreciation for the quiet artistry they bring to your life. Vision begins with light, but ends in understanding. Light enters the eye through the cornea, passes through the pupil, a small aperture controlled by the iris, and is focused by the lens onto the retina, a delicate layer at the back of the eye. Here special cells called photoreceptors detect light. Rods sense darkness, light, and motion. Cones detect color and detail. These signals are sent along the optic nerve to the visual cortex in the brain, where they are interpreted. You do not see with your eyes alone, you see with your brain. And even in dreams, that part of the brain may still flicker with imagery, reminding you that perception can continue even in rest. Hearing is the art of vibration. Sound waves enter the outer ear, travel through the ear canal, and cause the eardrum to vibrate. These vibrations are transferred through the tiny bones of the middle ear, the malleus, incus, and stapes, into the fluid-filled cochlea of the inner ear. Inside the cochlea, thousands of tiny hair cells move with the waves. This movement converts mechanical energy into electrical signals. These are sent along the auditory nerve to the brain's auditory centers, where sound becomes voice, music, memory. Even now, in this quiet, your ears remain open, always listening, even while you sleep. It is the first sense to awaken, the last to rest. The sense of smell is intimate, powerful, and ancient. When you inhale, odor molecules bind to receptors in the olfactory epithelium at the top of the nasal cavity. These signals travel not to the brain's outer layers, but directly to the limbic system, where emotion and memory reside. That is why scent is so deeply tied to feeling, why a familiar aroma can evoke an entire childhood, a season, a person. Your body remembers through scent. And even now, in your rest, your sense of smell quietly surveys your environment, helping ensure your safety. Taste is both simple and complex. It begins with the taste buds, clusters of sensory cells on the tongue, soft palate, and even throat. There are 5 basic tastes: sweet, salty, sour mikroshanthis puttersalty, bitter beet pills, umami, a savory depth found in broths and proteins. But flavor is more than taste alone. It is a partnership between taste and smell. That is why food tastes dull during a cold when smell is diminished. So too is flavor. As you rest now, the digestive system processes nutrients, and though you are not tasting anything, the echoes of meals linger, a quiet memory in the body. Touch is the most widespread sense, present in every part of your skin. It detects pressure, temperature, texture, vibration, and pain. Beneath the skin lie specialized receptors that send signals through nerves to the somatosensory cortex of the brain. These signals help you navigate the world, warn of harm, or offer comfort. Some areas, like the fingertips and lips, are especially sensitive, home to thousands of receptors. Others, like your back, are more muted, sensing broad pressure instead of fine detail. Touch is also the language of affection, reassurance, and safety. A gentle hand, a soft blanket, the feel of your own breath against your chest, these small touches help calm the nervous system, even in sleep. Beyond the classic 5, there are other sensory systems working constantly. Proprioception, your sense of body position, how you know where your limbs are without looking. Vestibular system, your sense of balance and spatial orientation, housed in the inner ear. Interoception, your awareness of internal states like hunger, heartbeat, or the need to breathe. These senses don't shout, they whisper. But without them, you would not feel whole. As you drift deeper into rest, many sensory systems soften, the brain quiets external noise, the eyelids close, the muscles relax, but the pathways remain. Touch still soothes, hearing still guards, smell and taste wait patiently. And in dreams, the brain can simulate all 5, reminding us that perception is not just reception but creation. The sensory systems are your interface with the world. They help you know what is near, what is safe, what is beautiful. Even in silence, even in stillness, they remain gentle windows to your human experience. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how all these systems come together in balance, in rhythm, in harmony, the quiet principle of homeostasis. But for now, simply rest. Let the senses soften. Let awareness drift. And know that even in stillness, your body listens. As we near the end of our quiet journey, let us arrive gently at a concept that has been present in every chapter, in every breath, in every beat. A principle not of motion, but of equilibrium. Not of reaction, but of regulation. This is homeostasis, the body's enduring art of balance. The word comes from the Greek homeo, meaning same, and stasis, meaning standing still. But make no mistake, this stillness is not passive. It is dynamic, a constant quiet effort to stay within a range that sustains life. Temperature, hydration, blood sugar, pH levels, electrolyte balance, oxygen. These are just a few of the countless variables that your body maintains within narrow, life-supporting limits. And it does so without your having to think, act, or even notice. Let us rest now in the beauty of that quiet, continuous balancing act. Perhaps the most familiar form of homeostasis is temperature regulation. Your body aims to remain near 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 Fahrenheit. When your cold, blood vessels constrict to retain heat. Shivers generate warmth through muscle contraction. When you're hot, blood vessels dilate. Sweat forms and evaporates, cooling the skin. All of this happens beneath your awareness, guided by the hypothalamus deep in the brain. This small region monitors internal signals and adjusts responses like a thermostat, but alive, intelligent, and adaptive. Water is life, and your body holds it carefully. The kidneys monitor water levels, salt content, and blood pressure. When you are dehydrated, they conserve. When water is abundant, they release. Hormones like ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and aldosterone fine-tune this process, ensuring that every cell is hydrated but not overwhelmed. This balance allows your blood to flow, your cells to function, your brain to remain clear. Even in sleep, this regulation continues, silent and precise. Your blood must remain slightly alkaline, around a pH of 7.4. A shift of even a few tenths could disrupt enzyme function, oxygen transport, and nerve activity. The lungs and kidneys work together to maintain this level. The lungs adjust carbon dioxide levels through breathing. The kidneys manage bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. Together, they create a buffering system like a finely tuned orchestra adjusting its tone. The food you eat becomes glucose, the fuel for your cells, but that glucose must be regulated. Too little, and the brain falters. Too much, and damage occurs. The pancreas releases insulin to help cells absorb glucose. It releases glucagon to raise levels when needed. This hormonal dance keeps your energy steady like a tide flowing in and out, predictable and smooth. Your cells require oxygen and must release carbon dioxide. The lungs, heart, and blood work in concert to keep this exchange in perfect balance. Sensors in the brainstem monitor carbon dioxide levels. If they rise, the breathing rate increases. If oxygen falls, the heart pumps faster. This is not effort. This is design. At night, homeostasis takes on a different rhythm. Heart rate slows. Temperature drops slightly. Hormone levels shift. Growth hormone rises to support repair. Cortisol lowers to allow rest. Melatonin rises, guiding the body towards stillness. Even in dreams, your body continues its quiet work of balance, adjusting, replenishing, restoring. No system maintains homeostasis alone. They communicate, they adapt, they support one another. When you are ill, your immune system triggers a fever, adjusting temperature to fight infection. When you are afraid, your heart races, pumping blood to muscles. When you eat, insulin rises, ensuring that nutrients reach the cells in time. This is not disorder. This is the body responding to challenge, then returning to baseline. That return is homeostasis. That return is health. Your body does not need you to instruct it. It has within it the memory of millennia, wisdom encoded in DNA, practiced by organs, reinforced through experience. It knows how to regulate, how to pause, how to begin again. As you rest now, know this. You are not held in balance by will, but by nature. You are not sustained by effort, but by grace. Your body, quiet, resilient, intelligent, has never stopped keeping you safe. Even now, it watches. Even now, it cares. In the final part of our journey, we'll reflect gently on this remarkable union, how all systems, all sensations, all rhythms together form the single living whole that is you. But for now, allow yourself to drift deeper, resting in the trust that balance is already here. You are already enough, already whole. As we come to the end of this journey through the human body, we arrive not at a conclusion, but at a deeper understanding. Not fragments, but a flow. That your body and all its parts is not a collection of separate systems, but a single integrated whole. Not divisions, but unity. Every system you've learned about, nervous, endocrine, circulatory, respiratory, digestive, urinary, immune, muscular, skeletal, integumentary, reproductive, exists not as an island, but as a thread in a tightly woven fabric. Each system speaks to the others. Each depends on the rest. Together, they are you. Consider a single moment. You take a breath. The respiratory system draws in air. Oxygen passes into the blood, carried by the circulatory system. The brain, part of the nervous system, monitors your breath and sends adjustments. Your muscles relax slightly. The heart pumps it to every cell. Hormones adjust in response. Your body temperature shifts. The kidneys filter waste. All in a breath, the skin regulates heat. And if anything harmful is present, the immune system is already aware, already responding. Your body does not wait for permission to keep you alive. This is the choreography of life. You do not need to direct this concert hall. When to grow and when to heal. When to protect and when to yield. It knows when to rest and when to wake. It senses danger. It remembers love. It holds pain and it releases it. You are not the puppeteer pulling strings. It builds, adapts, and transforms. You are the song composed and sung by every cell. It is tempting to compare the body to a machine, but machines break. They require external control. You are different. They are made of rigid parts. You are living, organic, responsive, fluid. Your skin is not just a covering, it senses, breathes, protects, and communicates. Whole. Your heart is not just a pump, it responds to joy, to fear, to stillness. Your gut is not just a tunnel, it learns, remembers, and even feels. Your brain is not just a processor, it dreams, hopes, loves, and creates. No system acts alone. You are the sum of trillions of parts. No moment exists in isolation. And yet, you are more than the sum. You are experience itself. Your breath is easy. As you lie here now, soft in the evening hush, all systems are at peace. Your glands hum in harmony. Your blood flows gently. Your muscles release, but nothing has stopped. Your mind begins to loosen its grip. Everything is slowing. The body continues its work, repairing tissue, reinforcing memory, digesting, filtering, protecting, balancing fluids. This is not just sleep. It is integration. It is a return. In your waking life, you may feel pulled apart by thoughts, by roles, by demands. It has always been whole, but your body remains whole. It holds you when you are anxious. It adapts when you are sick. It waits when you are tired. It heals when you are broken. You are not a brain riding in a vessel. It carries you always. You are a being, entire, embodied, enlivened. There is nothing more to hold. And as you drift now into deep rest, you may let go of needing to understand, to plan, to fix. You are already held as your journey through the body comes to a close. Let it not be the end, but a gentle beginning. The body is not a place to escape from, but a home to return to, not a puzzle to solve, but a partner to trust, not an object, but a living presence, with memory, wisdom, and rhythm. To rest is to trust your body, to soften your grip, to let the systems you've just learned about breathe for you, pulse for you, repair you. You do not have to try. You do not have to do. You only have to be. In the stillness of sleep, you become whole again. Let these last words be not instruction, but an invitation. Let your eyelids be heavy. Let your jaw be soft. Let your hands rest without purpose. Let your legs sink deeper into the weight of the earth. There is nowhere to go now, nothing to remember, nothing to fix, only this moment. And beneath this moment, the endless kindness of your body, working, holding, healing, in silence. Thank you for traveling through yourself, for honoring your systems, for welcoming rest. May your sleep be deep. May your dreams be kind, and may you wake tomorrow renewed, held by the same body that carried you through the night.